Greetings and welcome back to Doctor Who Revisited, my ongoing series where I revisit and review every single episode of Doctor Who from 1963 all the way up to 2022. And boy, oh boy, do I have a banger of an episode today. Serial number 2, The Daleks, which was originally titled The Mutants. Titles of certain episodes, especially in its season 1, were kind of iffy still to this day. But for now, we're just going to refer to it as The Daleks, a 7-part serial featuring the Doctor's ultimate foes, easily one of the most iconic characters from this franchise of all time. And let me just say this, as an introductory episode to The Daleks, it did not disappoint whatsoever. And no disrespect to Anthony Coburn, but we can clearly tell that this is a much better written script for this serial. Terry Nation, one of the best Doctor Who writers of all time, one of the best Doctor Who contributors of all time, hit this one out of the park. And again, no disrespect to Anthony Coburn, who wrote the first serial, 100,000 BC, or Unearthly Child, whichever way you want to go, but you can tell that this was a massive step up from the previous one. First of all, in terms of world building, character building, lore building, the sets were just incredible by comparison to the first one. The idea of only showing us the Doctor and friends for the better part of the first episode was really good atmospherical setting. And again, I love how they set up the planet Skaro. We get all we really need to know about this planet from just that one episode with the petrified jungle and all the radiation poisoning, even though we don't know it's radiation poisoning until episode 2 at the earliest. The middle creature that shows up, I can't remember his name at the moment, but yeah, we get so many of these tiny little hints all throughout the episode. And then in episode 2, once the Daleks make their first physical full-on appearance, it just goes straight up from there. And again, I said earlier that you can tell that this is a much needed step up in the script department from Terry Nation. This serial, even though it's segmented into 7 different parts that are all 25 minutes long, it almost feels like all those episodes are way longer than they actually are, because sticking true to the Terry Nation sort of way of storytelling, these episodes are just packed with stuff without being too overcrowded and without being too busy and confusing for the viewers. They're just filled with so much lore and world building and action and drama and character stuff that it's almost astonishing that these episodes are just 25 minutes long. They feel like they might be longer. And that's not a bad thing. You're never once feeling like you're bored. The episode never once drags or wavers or wastes any time. There's not a single word of dialogue wasted all throughout the 7-part serial. And the creature design, even though we don't really get to see what the Daleks actually look like, we don't really get to see much of the creatures in the swamp, just the terror and the acting from all the Thal characters and the companion characters, it does all the work for you. While it's not really the best Terry Nation script in Doctor Who, it is what I like to call the quintessential Terry Nation script. And what I mean by that is it has all of the, shall we say, Terry Nation isms that his scripts are very iconically famous for. First of all, great world building, creature design, obviously, lore. We get to learn the history of the Daleks and the Thals and the 500 years ago. Obviously, a lot of what we know about the Daleks and the Thals was established years and years later with furthering of the script and further development of the planet Skaro and its history. But considering we have no knowledge of who the Daleks are and what the Thals are and what and everything that's going on the planet, this episode really gets you a much needed information dump dump without overwhelming you with it, and that's what I love about it so much. It's not confusing to the audience, and it's not baffling. It's not overdone. There's just the right amount of world building and action and plot to drive the story around. That it actually manages to fill 7 parts of it, and as we're going to see in future Terry Nation scripts, the main sort of A plot switches up several different times. It goes from being a mission of just going to find Mercury, to just escape being imprisoned by the Daleks, and then have to go back to get the fluid link because they need that to escape, and then transitions into being haunted by monsters in a lake, and the tragedy inside the caves, being captured by the Daleks again, and there's just so much. One thing leads to another in this script instead of just focusing on one single through line, and that's one of the many things I love about these Terry Nation panned scripts, especially in Doctor Who, is that everything that could go wrong goes wrong in the most unexpected ways, and the main plot shifts around from one thing to another. Everything just it never stays in one place. The story, that is. So this episode, the serial, all 7 episodes, in my opinion, they're all firing on all cylinders. Not to make a Dalek pun, obviously. I think Terry Nation really knocked this out of the park that early in the development of the show, and I'm so happy that he did, because the Daleks went on to become one of the most iconic parts about the show, and I don't think the Daleks would be as highly regarded in the pantheon of Doctor Who villains as they are today if it wasn't for that first episode, that first serial. You see the Daleks for the first time. I've always said this about the Daleks. They have the perfect merger between goofiness and terrifying, that everything just really falls into place. That's what you really need in a Doctor Who villain, a great Doctor Who villain, that they are just as funny and goofy as they are scary and horrifying. That it's a really weird trying to find the balance. But I mean, if you look at some of the great Doctor Who villains, a lot of them do tend to fill both of those niches of goofy and terrifying, but none do so as good as the Daleks do. Some Doctor Who villains, let's be honest, are incredibly goofy, and they're not really memorable for that reason. A lot of them are just scary and terrifying, which really works for those villains, but it doesn't really. None of them really have the same type of staying power that the Daleks continue to have, and a big part of it is their debut episode, which is this one. So even though this episode is a lot longer than the previous one, there really isn't a lot for me to talk about, other than just I loved everything that I saw. I loved the conflict between the Thals, the morality shifts, and the different points of view of war and pacifism that's been primarily exemplified by the Thals on one side and the Daleks on the other. Unfortunately, this also set an unfortunate circumstance, or should I say precedent, for Doctor Who, of just people committed to helping the Doctor and his companions not really making it out alive by the end of the episode. And that's really true about anything whenever the Daleks are concerned. Overall, like I said, such a solid episode. Might be my favorite of this season so far. But yeah, I'll just have to continue talking about the rest of the episodes one at a time to figure out which is my favorite one. I think this might be my favorite or second favorite. We'll get to what I think is my favorite later in this series. But yeah, great first impression from the Daleks. Great first impression from Skaro and the Thals. Great story between the Doctor and his companions. Great conflict between the Doctor and his companions. Again, like I said in the previous one, the Doctor lies. Don't try to ignore that. The Doctor does that all the time with the fluid link, and it usually ends up biting him on the back after the fact. But there's even more conflict between the Doctor and his companions, and even more to learn about the TARDIS in the next episode. But that is a story for another time. So let's just wrap up this video for the moment. Possibly 10 out of 10 story. Again, I don't really do rankings or scoring for episodes. I just say, do I like them or do I not like them? And I just talk about what I like and what I don't like. And really, there really isn't much that I didn't like about this episode. So take that for what it's worth. And I'll see you next time for the shortest serial in this first season of the show. So see you then.
Hi there! Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.